Title: The Phantom Printer. Lisa had always enjoyed working as a librarian at the small-town library. It was a quiet and peaceful place, nestled at the edge of town, and she relished the solitude of her night shifts on Fridays when the library stayed open late. But on one particular Friday night, the tranquility she cherished would turn into a haunting experience she would never forget. As the clock approached midnight, Lisa sat at her desk near the front of the library, a warm cup of tea beside her, and a book open in front of her. The library's patrons had dwindled, and she was the only staff member on duty, responsible for overseeing the last hours of operation. The only sounds were the soft rustling of pages and the occasional creaking of the old wooden floors. The library had a comforting and familiar ambience, and Lisa often found solace in the company of books. But as the night wore on, she began to sense an unusual tension in the air, a subtle change in the atmosphere that she couldn't quite put her finger on. She attributed it to fatigue, her imagination playing tricks on her in the quiet hours of the night. Then, without warning, the stillness was broken by the sudden whir and hum of the printer in the back room. It startled Lisa, causing her to spill her tea as she rose from her desk. She glanced at the clock. It was nearing 1 a.m., far too late for any scheduled print job. Curiosity piqued, Lisa made her way to the back room where the printer was located. The room was dimly lit, and the shelves were stacked with boxes of old documents and reference materials. The printer sat on a sturdy wooden table against the far wall. When Lisa approached the printer, she expected to see a document spewing out, a misfired print job or a technical glitch. However, the pages that emerged were unlike anything she had ever seen. They were filled with a single word, repeated over and over in bold, black letters: leave. A sense of unease washed over Lisa as she picked up the pages. The word had been printed with an intensity that seemed to convey a clear message, one she couldn't ignore. She glanced around the room, half expecting to find someone playing a prank, but there was no one there. The library had never felt so empty and ominous. Lisa tried to shake off her unease, attributing the strange occurrence to a technical malfunction. Perhaps the printer had been tampered with or was malfunctioning in some way. She examined the printer, running a series of tests and diagnostics, but everything appeared to be in working order. There was no logical explanation for why it had suddenly started printing those haunting words. With a sigh, Lisa returned to her desk, the unsettling words "leave" still echoing in her mind. She couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease, as though the library itself were trying to convey a message to her. As she sat down at her desk, the feeling of being watched intensified. It was as though unseen eyes were fixed on her, and the library's familiar surroundings now felt foreign and eerie. She glanced out the large, arched windows that overlooked the darkened streets of the town, but there was nothing to be seen. Determined to dispel her unease, Lisa resumed her reading, attempting to lose herself in the words on the page. But her concentration was shattered when she heard it, the faint sound of whispering. She looked around, her heart pounding, but there was no one in sight. The whispering seemed to come from all around her, like an eerie chorus of voices just beyond her perception. The words were indistinct, like a murmured secret, and they sent a chill down her spine. Lisa couldn't pinpoint the source of the whispers, and the library's hushed ambience made it impossible to discern their origin. She considered the possibility that it might be a draft or some trick of the acoustics, but the words seemed too deliberate, too purposeful. With trembling hands, she decided to investigate further, following the soft voices as they led her deeper into the library. The whispers grew more insistent, their tone filled with an urgency that she couldn't ignore. They led her to the reference section, where rows of dusty old books lined the shelves. The voices seemed to emanate from a particular aisle, drawing her closer to a set of ancient tomes. As she reached out to pull one from the shelf, the whispering grew louder, a cacophony of voices all vying for her attention. She opened the book at random, and her eyes fell on a page filled with handwritten notes and annotations. The writing was archaic, and the words seemed to dance on the page, forming a message that sent a shiver down her spine. It read, "Beware the words, for they hold the key to the library's secrets." Lisa's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the cryptic message. The library had always been a place of knowledge and discovery, but now it felt like a place of hidden mysteries and ominous warnings. As she continued to investigate, she discovered that the whispers were leading her to more books, each filled with cryptic messages and riddles. The words seemed to convey a sense of urgency, as though they were guiding her toward a revelation. With each discovery, Lisa's unease deepened. She couldn't escape the feeling that the library itself was trying to communicate with her, using the printed words and whispered voices as its medium. The night grew darker, and Lisa's pursuit of the library's secrets led her to a locked door at the far end of the building. She had never seen the door before, and it appeared to be untouched for years, covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. With trembling hands, she fumbled for her key ring and found a key that seemed to fit the lock. As she turned the key and pushed open the door, she was greeted by a sight that left her breathless. The room beyond was a hidden archive, filled with rows upon rows of books and documents, all meticulously organized and preserved. The shelves reached to the ceiling, and the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and ink. But what caught Lisa's attention was the large, ornate book resting on a pedestal at the center of the room. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, bound in leather that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. As she approached the book, the whispers grew louder and more urgent. The voices seemed to converge on her, as though they were guiding her toward a revelation. With trembling hands, she opened the book to the first page and began to read. The words on the page were written in a language she couldn't understand, yet as she read them, they seemed to transform into a message she could comprehend. It was a warning about a presence that had long haunted the library, a restless spirit trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. The spirit sought a connection, a link to the world it had left behind, and it had chosen Lisa as its conduit. Lisa's heart raced as she realized the truth. The spirit was using the printer, the whispered voices, and the cryptic messages to communicate with her, to convey its longing for release. Determined to help the spirit find peace, Lisa followed the instructions in the book, performing a ritual that would bridge the gap between the living and the dead. As she completed the ritual, a sense of serenity washed over her, and the whispers faded into silence. The library had never felt so peaceful, and Lisa knew that she had played a part in helping the restless spirit find the connection it had sought for so long. She closed the book, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. But as she turned to leave the hidden archive, she was met with a sight that left her frozen in terror. The ghostly figure of a woman, pale and ethereal, stood before her, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," the spirit whispered, her voice hauntingly beautiful. Before Lisa could respond, the spirit began to fade, its form dissolving into the darkness of the archive. It left behind a library that felt truly empty, devoid of the supernatural presence that had once haunted its halls. Lisa returned to her desk, the library now bathed in the soft light of dawn. She knew that she had experienced something extraordinary, something that defied explanation. The library had revealed its secrets to her, and she had helped a restless spirit find the connection it had sought for so long. But as she sat in the quiet of the morning, she couldn't help but wonder about the mysteries that still lingered within the library's walls, waiting to be discovered by those who dared to listen to the whispers of the past.